brotherhood. But then in the following centuries, more and more emphasis began to be given to men and to positions, and they began to give titles to men. The time came when some of the early Christian writers, called the early church fathers, made statements that he that is with the bishop is with God, so that being with God you had to be in harmony with the bishop. And so it shows this pattern of elevating human authority more and more as time went on. Yes. So the changes that have come have been what we call cosmetic changes, and the structure remains the same. So these changes are like you put new curtains up or something like that, but the house is still the same house. It still has the same foundation. And if you read the publications in the magazine that come out, you'll see that nothing really has changed. It's the same thing.
But are there hope for change in future? Do you believe in it?
Well, they would have to simply dissolve the organization as it is and start over from nothing in order to do that, and they can't do that.
Proszę bardzo. Proszę. There is a question, there is the issue of former JWs. They want to join some community and they have problem. They meet, for example, evangelical churches, and they have problems because it is difficult for them to accept all the teachings of evangelical churches because he was taught in different way. Do you think that such a person should verify if some things are of minor importance, and if his conscience agrees, he should tolerate it? Or do you prefer personal group Bible study? And in such a case, there is a problem, because there were congregations in the book of Acts, there were elders, Jesus also had a judgment or assessment of churches in the book of Revelation, so Christian communities really were in action.
Mm-hmm. Well, I leave it up to each individual to be guided by his or her conscience in this matter. I don't try to argue for or against something of that nature. I prefer home Bible studies. I find that they allow for getting really to know people. When you have a small group, you get to know each one. It's like a family gathering, and it's very informal. When we discuss the scriptures, why people speak, and they speak from their heart. And I've had many letters from people who did begin to attend some denomination, and they said initially they were welcomed with loving arms. They were so happy to have them with them. But as time went on, they began to feel pressure to conform. So again, it's up to the individual. I think that the best thing is to try to look for people, individuals, that you can relate to as being spiritual persons. I have friends who, in the city of Chicago, who have had experiences with, they often go to a coffee house to drink coffee and talk, and they'll take along their Bible or some other book relating to religious subjects, and they say practically never does a time pass but what somebody will see them and see what they have there and come up and start asking them questions, and they have some very fine conversations with them. They recently had a Jewish woman who came up to them and told how she had just recently accepted Christianity. And in our daily life, we meet many people. We have interaction with people. And if we try to get to know them, we will find certain ones who do show a love of spiritual things. If we do, we can invite them to our homes, have a meal, get to know them better. So I feel confident that anyone who has that desire for fellowship will eventually find it. It may take a while, but he will find it.
To był jeszcze nos. The man said that he had a discussion with Jehovah's Witnesses because he have read one of the old books in which the reason for the flood was explained in such a way that there were rings above the earth,
yes.
and God created them in such a way that they had to fall on the earth and
Yes.
make the flood. And when he explained to this couple that the Watchtower book taught something like that, they said, "Oh, it doesn't matter. It is just the old light. Now we have a new light."
Yes.
What do you think of that?
Well, that's a very convenient expression, old light and new light. And but if it was false, it was never light. Light and darkness are compared in the Scriptures to truth and error. So if it was error, it was darkness, not light.
The time is ending now of our meeting, and there is a question for short word. What would you like to wish to Polish Jehovah's Witnesses?
Well, I think that I write to people that having learned something about an organization and seeing its flaws and then coming out of it, that is no solution of itself. It's what you do afterward that counts, that is the important thing. And as Jesus said, "You are the light of the world. Let your light shine that men may see your good deeds and give honor to your Father in heaven." So when we show ourselves to be really followers of Jesus Christ and we let his life reflect in our own, then we're giving praise to our Father in heaven. We will do good deeds, and those good deeds are not just limited to certain things like going from door to door and putting out magazines and things like that, but it relates to the whole of life, all that we do in life. So I would hope that the Polish persons will live by that, and that each day they will be concerned about reflecting Jesus Christ in their daily life. Let's let that be the last question.
Where you were a member of the governing body, did you think that you belonged to the heavenly class of 144,000? And do you still believe that you belong to, you have a heavenly calling?
Yes, I did. I would not have been accepted as a member if that had not been the case. But when we read the text and the scriptures that the society regularly uses, they use a text where it says that the Spirit bears witness to our spirit that we are sons of God. And they ignore the whole context, because from the very first verse of that chapter on, the apostle is talking about being governed by two things, either by the Spirit or by the flesh, the sinful flesh. So he's not talking about two classes like an earthly class and a heavenly class. He's talking about two classes, yes. One class governed by the sinful flesh, the other class governed by the Spirit of God. And he says that if one is governed by the sinful flesh, he is an enemy of God. So if we claim to be Christians, we can only be of the other class, which is governed by the Spirit of God. And then the words apply to us that the Spirit bears witness with our spirit that we are children of God.
It means that they have heavenly calling.
Yes.
So you belong to a heavenly class, or you believe that all believers belong, have heavenly
That's
calling?
open to all Christians. As the Apostle Paul says, for us there is one God, one Lord, one hope. He told his disciples, I'm going away to prepare a place for you, that where I am, you may be also. And certainly there could be nothing more wonderful or a greater privilege than to be where Christ Jesus is and to know him personally and intimately.
Amen. I chwała niech będzie Bogu.